Welcome back, Panther fans. My name is David Brown, along with Ryan Graham.
Hey, y'all.
And Tim Thurber.
Hello.
And this is State of Atlanta. I'm cheating a
We
little
are
bit
lucky.
here. I've cheated a little bit here because we started this thing live on Facebook, and I forgot to hit record. Although I guess I can download the Facebook video later on if I want the whole thing. But we'd already gotten started. We'll pick up from where we left off. You can check out the YouTube feed, or no, I got the YouTube, just the Facebook feed. If you want the full talk about everything. But we were talking about Georgia State moved their opening game from that Saturday of the opening week to Thursday. Of course, using that Thursday night name again, which I don't think – vote here. Approve of using Thursday night or not?
Disapprove.
I'm not for it, but if the kids like it, sure.
Yeah.
Thurs doesn't say Panthers.
Yeah. If they wanted to put like Pan Thursday night or something, I don't know. I like the attempt, but the execution is pretty bad. I remember the first time that it was being used was like that year that we had 4 Thursday night games, and they were making a big deal about it. And I think it was at the signing. No, not the signing. It was some event they had at Georgia State Stadium, and they made this big deal about Thursday night. And there was it was an older gentleman gets up and says, "Yeah, but it's not spelled right." Like he did not get the reference whatsoever at all.
It's not gettable.
What
What you just said, Panthers Day, makes so much more sense.
Yeah, and maybe if they put like a apostrophe or something there showing that it's an abbreviation, maybe it'd be better. But that's not what I really wanted to talk about. Tim, you like this move? You like moving the game from that Saturday to Thursday?
Well, I was saying earlier, I think we should just open away like we do with Tennessee. But if we don't want to do that,
Well, that's fantastic.
Thursday night's good. Friday's probably good too. Getting on TV is even better if we can manage that.
It's a fantastic opinion, but it's not the question I asked.
What'd you ask?
It's a politician over here.
Oh, Thursday? I already said no.
No, I mean this specific game. Do you think that makes sense moving this specific season, moving it from Saturday to Thursday?
I mean, sure. For any game, not just this one.
Because you know why we did it, right?
You son of a bitch. Are you about to say why we did it?
Well, I mean, there was news that came out the day before this was released, and that was the NFL canceled week 1 and week 4 of the preseason game.
Is it all about them?
And that
No,
Thursday,
I don't believe you. I don't believe that's true.
that Thursday was Falcons' preseason game, and I
So
think
we wanted it?
But we've played on preseason games before. Like we've done that. So
Yeah,
why would
because we have before, so we scheduled that way, but we used to get bumped by the Falcons from the Georgia Dome whenever we tried to schedule something.
yeah.
Friday or Thursday or something.
But we've done it when they were like away on for one,
I mean, I think it's very convenient that we did move it the day after the NFL announced that, and that kind of night got opened up. Now, Clemson is playing at Georgia Tech, but I think has been said on Panther Talk that same night, that Thursday night, it has been said that no one cares to see Georgia Tech lose by 28 points at home.
True.
So maybe watch Georgia State instead. We were talking before I realized I messed everything up that this was possibly an attempt to get more on TV, but there's 15 other games happening on that Thursday as well.
I really thought I read it somewhere that we had moved so that we could be on ESPN.
Well, it was fans probably on message boards suggesting.
No. It was an article. I have a Google alert that just is Georgia State football. And
other than the time, there's no network listed for the game, at least last I checked. So, which is also interesting because none of the other 15 games that I saw had a time listed either. I mean, the assumption is you're playing on a Thursday, you're playing a night game.
We didn't have a time set for Saturday, did we? I don't think so, right?
No, we did not.
So it would have been like 2 or 1 or 12.
Yeah, so at least now we get to watch the game. This is all assuming we're all in the stadium watching the game together. We can watch the game when it's not as unbearably hot out as it is in September in Georgia.
And
more news about that weekend is they canceled Dragon Con. So
they did, yeah. That's a good reason why I prefer that we open away, like Tim suggested. Is I like to go to Dragon Con, and
yeah,
I'd rather not miss a day of tailgating and everything for that.
But now it's canceled, so all those people, supposedly have something else they could be doing.
Yeah, yeah.
On the DL Dragon Con maybe.
I can't imagine that we lose a lot of our Georgia State attendance by people going to Dragon Con.
Oh my God! I remember a few years ago, I went to the Georgia Boise State game in the Georgia Dome, and when I was leaving, I like hooked it over to the Dragon Con hotel so that I could get on the train there, and it was a little further away, and plus I could go hang out at Dragon Con for half a minute. But I was in all my Georgia gear, and those people looked at me like I was just the enemy. And I'm like, guys, I'm one of you. I'm going home to change and come right back.
Yeah.
They thought you're some like infidel, like infiltrating their camp.
Yeah.
You know, the other good thing, David, about this game that we have is that it's a regional opponent less than 6 hours away. So there's no chance that it'll be canceled.
Yeah.
Or so I hear.
Does that mean there's no chance?
I don't know. There's a very likely chance that we see a lot of games getting canceled. I don't know about for us at least, but in general, yeah.
We should have our intern check out the Murray State message boards to see what they're saying about this game.
Yeah, I'm thinking that our stream isn't actually working right now on Facebook. That's what it's looking like to me.
Where is Murray State? Is it in Kentucky?
Yes, somewhere in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the racers, and they're the horse racers, so I'd imagine Kentucky.
Somewhere in Kentucky, close to nothing I know.
That's fine. Yeah. That's what I thought.
It's Kentucky, though. 5.5 hours away, perfect regional opponent. Game's going to happen. They're excited. We're excited. It's going to happen.
Would you prefer that we play the game on Friday instead of Thursday?
If it gets us on TV, sure.
There's only one other game. There's one other game on Wednesday. I don't know how many. There's 7 games on Friday, but there's one game on Wednesday. I don't even know if Wednesday's a possibility. I think that's a waiver thing. You get a Wednesday game.
Let's do it Wednesday. I mean, I guess moving to Thursday, you know, the people that are going out of town for Labor Day weekend, the people that don't leave on Thursday, you catch them and they can go to the game, maybe. Obviously,
well, one of the reasons why I like moving it up, and specifically this season, is look who our week 2 opponent is. We head over to Bama.
A cupcake.
But a couple extra days. I mean, I know, granted, an FCS team should be a rollover win in the week 1. Should be. We're Georgia State. We know that's not always the case. But even then, just a couple extra days to rest up and prepare for a powerhouse like Bama, it'd be nice, right? So
gives us a couple extra days. That's true. We can be ready for Bama.
I did find one dude on Twitter, because that's where the most enlightening conversation comes from. Is like, his one response was, it should have been Kennesaw State, but oh well. I'm like, wait, well, we're not just going to reschedule. We're going to get rid of a team and bring in Kennesaw State instead of moving a day. Like maybe if Murray State decides to not play this season, Kennesaw becomes a team that we could play because of how close it is. Everybody could drive themselves to the stadium. But like, what a stupid comment. Just
yeah. People don't like think before they speak, especially on Twitter.
They probably think we're in the same conference, whoever that is.
Probably so. Yeah. So assuming that that fans are allowed, do you think that having this game on that Thursday gives us a better chance of attendance?
I think opening game, you're always going to have better attendance. I don't think it matters much whether it's on a Thursday or a Saturday. We're going to have good attendance. It's going to be well attended regardless, especially if they are like if they are limiting attendance, we'll be able to announce like a nice percentage full, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, you agree, Tim, or what do you think? Give your own opinion.
I think for this weekend, you'll probably pick up a few more fans that, you know, couldn't go if they were going away out of town for the weekend. They might come Thursday night that obviously couldn't come on a Saturday because they're traveling. But I think it's minimal, you know, minimal bump.
Well, I will say there's one thing that I forgot to mention about the Falcons thing. The reason why I believe the NFL thing is the reason why they ended up changing the game is, you know, there's on that Thursday is that Panthers 3 or it's called the Thursday 3 email that has like 3 little nuggets of information and then a podcast. So it's not really 3 things. It's actually 4 because counting's hard. But that didn't come, that normally comes out relatively early in the day and did not come out until much later in that afternoon. So I'm thinking they were working on that moving at the time and like, all right, delay the email because this is going to be one of our 3 things.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for whatever little nugget of information got lost in the news cycle by changing it up and adding the the game change.
Oh, because there's all the news. There's so much news going on right now, right? I mean,
It could have been an article about the monthly AD letter that goes out. Maybe.
oh, did you guys read it?
No.
Did we get
I
one?
don't think he's not released one. No,
No,
I
there's
don't
nothing
think so.
with this last time.
I read it. I read the whole thing.
You're removed.
I read 100% of it this week.
All right, sorry. Talk amongst yourself. I'm actually trying to get us back onto Facebook Live again. So.
Oh, right on. So
Oh, we're not
I
recording?
do have that Georgia State that Google alert, and we did have a player enter the transfer portal who is like our highest ranked player from 2 years ago. Is an offensive lineman, I think.
You know, the Connor.
Something or another, yeah.
Yeah, we're not.
But it was weird because it got picked up by like MSN Sports or something, which I was like, what? How is this? How is this news?
If you don't know, we're not going to discuss it here.
Let's not discuss it.
No, I thought it was interesting that we got picked up by a national network, sports news. It wasn't like
yeah, it's easy to get
know?
picked up by for bad news. So yeah, and it was young kids making bad decisions. You guys actually
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So you froze for me a little bit there. No, it was young kid making bad decisions, and that's putting it lightly, I guess is the way to phrase it.
Is he the guy? Is he the guy who?
He's the guy.
Rampaged.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
he's the guy.
Rampage. That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it.
I thought so. I googled his name and it didn't come up.
Internet failed.
Ryan, I want to applaud you for bringing something to the table, but it was something that I definitely didn't want to talk about.
You told us to talk amongst ourselves. All right, you put the ball in my court.
That's true. I guess I didn't want to talk about it. I gave you guys free reign to talk about whatever else. So I should have just shut up and let you guys dig us a hole.
I knew enough to actually Google his name, and I looked for news articles. I looked back like a month and didn't find anything. So
That's good.
like, okay, yeah. So I
all good.
figured it wasn't the right guy.
As we lose one guy, we picked up a new commit, and I'm not really big about recruiting and all that kind of stuff, as I've said time and time again. But Tim, before we went on this thing, Tim and I were kind of just talking about it, and we actually had a decent little conversation. So I figured might as well rehash that here. There was a tease on Panther Talk about some big news over the weekend, and it turns out it was another recruit from Florida for the class of 21 cycle, Marquez Bargman. I really need to learn how to spell names or pronounce names. But we didn't think, because we were chatting about it between the three of us, and we didn't think that he was going to commit to us because Tim, you noticed he put some black and yellow stars on his little tweet and announcing his thing.
Yeah.
I didn't even look it up. Maybe that's his high school colors.
He's an anarchist.
Maybe so.
He's an anarchist. I also thought it could be Kennesaw State. That wouldn't make any sense. But
Well, yeah, actually, after looking at it later on, his offers were Army, which is maybe
black and gold, yeah.
And then a bunch of FCS schools.
But
So,
not
hey,
us,
David, thanks
for
for
sure.
joining us. So yeah, I just really can't get into those kind of recruits. There was another Florida recruit, but that was the thing. He's from the same hometown as Albert Wilson and has met Albert Wilson at least once before.
What? Oh,
Well,
he's
this
old,
is
man.
huge news.
He's done.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
So, but I guess the question I was posing to Tim, and I'll ask you now, Ryan, since you weren't on earlier, was, so this is the class of 21 cycle. So assuming that high schools happen and kids are in classes together and everything, so all year long, his teammates and his friends and everybody will be like, all right, well, are you going to go to college to play football? And he's like, yeah. And they're like, all right, where are you going? Like, Georgia State. How many people even in Florida have really heard of Georgia State, and how much weight does that carry versus like hearing about even a Vanderbilt or a UNC probably carries a lot more weight, but they're watch a kid walk around with his Georgia State shirt on, have no clue where he's going or what's going on.
I don't know. I have heard from the recruiting coaches that it's easier to get guys from out of town, from out of state, because they want to travel into Atlanta. So like, who knows how they represent it if they're like, oh, I'm going to school in Atlanta, I'm going to Georgia State in Atlanta or whatever. Like, people are more excited to come here that aren't from here.
Yeah. I don't want to talk down about it, which I guess that sounded like I was talking down. I think it's great anytime we can get that Georgia State logo out into different areas outside of the Atlanta area and outside of Georgia, that's awesome. But I don't know.
Yeah, why do you hate Georgia State so much, dude? What the hell?
I hate them so much. I decided to talk every week about them.
Yeah.
I decided to get drunk every week just to talk about Georgia State.
If you could find an excuse to get drunk, I think you'd take it.
Yeah. It's one of those.
I'll be honest, I'm from Florida. I didn't know Georgia State existed.
I'll be honest, I'm from Georgia. I didn't know what Georgia State was until I was looking for a college to go to.
I tell you what, I bet there's one state that knows a lot about Georgia State, and that's the state of Tennessee.
They know where we are.
Good one.
I bet you they're in flashbacks right now as we approach mid-July.
Well, I wonder if it's one of those things now, because we'll talk about this a little bit later, but a lot of schools talking about revamping their schedule to do more regional things. And they're like, all right, well, Tennessee, here's some games you can play. There's a team in Atlanta called Georgia State. You want to play them? Oh. Is that quarterback still there? No. Oh, yeah, we'll give him a shot.
So I thought I saw Dan Ellington also tweet out something about, like, getting a gunslinger or something. But I didn't see anything about a QB commit.
Yeah, I don't think anything's been announced about that. At least not that I've seen it at all.
Okay, but he did say something like that, right?
Yeah, he posted some animated GIF with the gunslinger thing and whatever.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, and he would know what a quality quarterback looks like. So
yeah.
Looks at one in the mirror every single day. There was another cool thing on Twitter that started last week. We talked about it. I think we talked about the first round of Georgia State's best football plays tournament they're doing on Twitter. It was Dan in the Tennessee game versus I don't even remember because there was no way that guy was winning this game. So, and Dan won that one if it wasn't already known. But so we've had two come out since then. Did you guys vote in these two polls from the past week?
I did one, but you're gonna have to say what it was again for me to remember what I did.
The first one came out on, or the most recent one, not recent, whatever. Drinking, great. Nick Arbuckle versus Texas State in 2015, and then which I think that was the start of the 4 wins in a row or whatever, how many wins in a row it was to take us eligibility.
Yeah.
Or Chase Middleton versus Western Kentucky in the Cure Bowl win. And of course, my initial reaction was, if there's anything that's got Nick Arbuckle in there, I'm voting for Nick because I think he's a legend for Georgia State football. What did you guys think?
I did Chase Middleton because there was multiple turnovers in that game, and there's like nothing in my mind that's more exciting in a game of football than a defensive, like a turnover, right? Like an interception, a fumble recovery, something like that. And then the fact that it was Western Kentucky and it was the bowl game, right? So
yeah. What about you, Tim? What do you think?
I went the same direction. The bowl game is kind of a bigger overall moment, and the turnovers were timely and like huge for the team. So
yeah,
it was hard though. I wanted to vote for Doolittle, but couldn't do it.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I voted for Chase as well, and we weren't alone. He won by 73%.
Yeah.
Watching the highlight videos they put together for each of them, Nick looked like Nick in his prime. It was awesome. It was fantastic. 4 touchdowns in the game, which I don't want to get into stats at all. That's as far as it goes. But yeah, when you look at Chase's highlight from that game, 2 turnovers. I think he had a couple of sacks or something. He was doing fantastic, and I tweeted out that this was a tough one because Nick is the man. However, one good play of offense is like 2 or 3 good plays in defense. So I went with Chase. I thought it was great.
I think the second most exciting play is a sack. So, that's what gets me hyped up, to watch, one of our defensive players just go, clobber a quarterback behind the line is awesome.
Oh, nothing's better than a blindside sack, too, when they don't even know it's coming. Man,
just get them good. Yeah.
A turnover or a loss of yards. Those are the best plays you can have on the defense.
Blindside sack with a fumble and recovery. Done.
In the game, I'd rather watch that than somebody air it out to Julio Jones and have him, cakewalk it into the end zone. I'd rather see a sack on defense. A sack that causes a turnover. Oh my God, it's just.
Yeah.
I love it when you have the good defensive players that, I mean, they get their sacks and they get their turnovers or whatever. But I like it when you have like that defensive lineman that kind of just like ends up being there when the ball pops out from a sacked quarterback and just picks it up and he's running with all his might, like 60 yards downfield and he's winded 20 yards in.
It's like slow motion.
It's like,
and he's so happy. He's always so happy. Like he's the happiest guy you've ever seen.
it's like Billy Bob from Varsity Blues when he runs in for his touchdown.
Yeah.
That which who's actually offense. But anyhow, so that was I think obviously we're all in agreement there, and so is the Twitterverse with us as well. The other one came out yesterday. Is it yesterday? Is that the 6th? Yep. Yesterday.
Yeah, the 6th.
And this was Trey Barnett versus Troy against Terrace Batiste versus Georgia Southern in that 34-7 win, that first win against Southern down in Statesboro. And I didn't have to look at a highlight reel on this one.
What was the first one?
Trey Barnett versus Troy. He got I copied down what they said on the Twitter thing. 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, broke GSU records.
That's a lot of yards. He probably broke a lot of other schools' records too. That's an insane amount of yards.
Right.
And we talk about how Troy has our number, at least in basketball, but that was a 52-33 win.
That was dominant.
But again, the Twitterverse agrees. Terrace Batiste against Georgia Southern got 67%. He did 2 interceptions, 2 tackles for a loss, a forced fumble.
Yeah.
That's gonna set up an interesting battle between Dan and Batiste. Are they gonna? Is it the same plays, or are they gonna pick a different set for the?
I would assume it's the same play.
Is it? All right.
I would assume so.
We don't really know. There's no rules to this top performers.
We don't even know what the 4th matchup is. It comes out tomorrow, I think. But I have a bet. I will put dollars to donuts right now that one of the people competing in tomorrow's announcement will be Will Lutz. Will Lutz will be in there somehow. They will drag that NFL Pro Bowler's name into anything they possibly can. So there's no way Will Lutz is not part of that. I don't know what play it's going to be, or if it's going to be just his career as a kicker or something, but I guarantee you.
Because he wasn't like automatic here. Like he was never like super impressive here.
No, he wasn't. I mean, I remember when he got picked up by, was it Baltimore at first?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, good for Will, but I remember missing some chip shots, I feel, some points after. And so I don't know if they'll find something. They'll find something.
I think
Will Lutz versus Will Lutz.
Kickers get into ruts, man. They get into like these weird things, and like good coaches can bring them out of it.
Well, I think it was in that Georgia State documentary they put out. His big advance forward was actually when he was at Baltimore, where he sat behind the kicker there to learn.
What's his face, right? No, it's not. I'm sorry. Forget me. I thought it was a Georgia guy. It's Vikings, though.
And I think he chose to – I'm talking out of my ass right now, but I think he chose to stay with Baltimore's practice squad to learn from the kicker at Baltimore versus going to another team until the Saints decided to pick him up. So, yeah.
Good for the Saints.
Yeah.
No.
Well, that's all I got for Georgia State news for this week, but I did have a few other things we can talk about this. I keep on saying, assuming we're playing games this fall and assuming that fans are going to be there. I feel like –
We're talking about negative, David.
Well, I feel like if you've been following along with anything this week, it's been a lot of pessimism, a whole lot of pessimism about college football specifically playing on time or playing a full schedule, or as one person put it, playing anything that looks like what we're used to with college football. So I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure what that means.
There's been more talk of the season moving to spring, or some teams or leagues or conferences moving to spring and not playing a fall schedule at all.
I think no matter what, it's going to look like football.
Well, yeah. So there was an article from somebody at Michigan that covers Michigan, and he actually had a lot of. I guess it's a Sports Illustrated article actually. But he had a lot of interesting little notes about it. He said, before he kind of assumed everything was going to happen. Now he's seriously questioning, this is what it was, or at least anywhere close to we've come to know football to be. Like, all right, so is he talking about like fans in stands or like, players not able to like huddle up or group up on the sideline or something? Or is he like touchdowns are now 12 points? Like, what do you mean by football not being what we've come to know it to be?
7-on-7? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, it sounds dramatic.
Very dramatic. So some of the tidbits he got into there is that no one wants to travel or get on a plane or stay in a hotel. He said one Big Ten school in the West Division supposedly already has a tentative regional schedule in place that includes multiple FCS teams. So that multiple FCS teams was interesting.
I mean, but I
wonder if
haven't
we
heard
would
of
go
anyone
back.
canceling or anything, right? So how are people getting out of their contracts to do things like that?
There's a lot of ways to do it with, well, I mean, like Michigan, he goes on to think that he thinks Michigan's going to play, but Michigan's got more money than God. If they want to buy out a contract, they buy out a contract and then, wipe their butt with the paper afterwards. It's no big deal for Michigan. But I think some of the other schools will like use that fancy French word, force majeure or whatever, to say that it's circumstances beyond control. A big question is, because Michigan's actually talking about, or it's rumored, this guy says it's happening. This guy says that Michigan's not playing their game against conference rival Arkansas State. And so following the message boards a little bit, Arkansas State guys are like, all right, well, if they claim this little force majeure thing, that's fine. But if they play somebody else, then we can say, no, we want our $1.8 million, because if you can play them, you can play us.
They'd have probably pretty good standing to say something like that. It's the only reason I've seen I've gone through this a little bit. We've been trying to plan a convention in various states, and I apologize for the background noise. Force majeure is like the government literally says you cannot have your event anymore, and then you can't. So
yeah, and that was the big thing with Dragon Con as well. Is people were wondering why they were taking so long to delay canceling, and like, well, if the city and the state comes in and says you cannot have this, then Dragon Con can walk away and be like, sorry guys, we're not obligated to give you refunds or rollovers or anything,
Right.
Because it's not beyond our control. We still have our obligations. It's beyond our control. Whereas otherwise, they can. I don't know. I think I just said both sides.
And there aren't that many hotels really open in Atlanta right now. Like when we go on walks and stuff like that, we'll walk by all these hotels. They're all closed. Major hotels. Oh yeah, like Renaissance Midtown closed.
I was gonna stay there this weekend.
Yeah. Okay.
That was one of the things is like, so we were supposed to have our convention that I'm going to tomorrow in Austin a few months ago, like a month and a half ago, but Austin was totally shut down. And then we moved it to Florida while they were reopening during all that reopening stuff. And the hotel we were going to was like, yeah, you'll be like the first group of people in. We're going to reopen. Everything's going to be cleaned out and all this other stuff. And then they like literally a week ago were like, oh yeah, by the way, we're not actually going to be open. And so you can have it at this other hotel in Orlando, not the original hotel that's been open the whole time. And we're like, but is that okay? I don't know, guys.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That goes to this point that another thing the guy made in the Sports Illustrated article is like he's expecting us to enter into a wild west situation here soon.
This guy.
It's actually a pretty interesting article. If I remember,
this is the same guy that talked about the realignment.
No, I don't think so.
Is this the same guy on Twitter that only has 10 followers?
Definitely no.
That guy does not work for Sports Illustrated. By the way, update, he has 10 followers.
10 followers.
Scott Swaber, give him a follow. We don't.
Nope.
But no, he says while soon where schools start scrambling to cancel games and replace to get more regional. He said a lot of the Big Ten teams are talking to MAC and Conference USA about filling them. Talk about even doing home and homes with conference mates. So Michigan could play 2 games against Ohio State or Michigan State. If this guy has a clue what he's talking about, and he claims that he does, because why wouldn't he? It really could be an interesting few weeks leading up to the start of football. But he says that he thinks that there will be some teams, some conferences that definitely dip out and wait till spring, or he even says that up to 4 or 5 Big Ten teams not playing their seasons, period.
I mean, it just takes a couple teams to obviously suspend their season. Then all of a sudden, people have to fill games, and like it's just a domino effect, right? You have a couple teams that just cancel, and then all of a sudden, everyone's trying to schedule everyone because they need to make up their games. So I could get it what he's talking about. Honestly.
And we've seen that already. There's already been some leagues and conferences, like the Patriot Conference in FCS has already said they're not playing any out-of-conference games, which has led to some FBS schools having to change that. There was a Division II school that's not playing, so Army, who is playing them, has to find a new team to play or not play that game at all. This guy even suggests that there's not going to be the same number of games played between all teams. That some teams will play 8 games, some teams will play 11. One thing interesting you said was he sees that on this short, smaller Big Ten list of teams that are playing is a 4-team playoff for the Big Ten championship that would be played in one location. All 4 teams, the same thing that soccer and basketball is doing right now. They would basically quarantine the players for 2 weeks in the same hotel, same everything, as they play the 3 games to get their Big Ten championship. So as much as I want things to play as normal, if you get all this mixed match of stuff going on crazy and it's different every week, it's going to be a very, very fun football season. It'll be a disappointing football season in the end when everything's said and done and whatever happens. But this could be a lot of fun to watch.
It could be. I mean, I wonder what the Sun Belt would do. You know, now you'd be vying for the top 2 in the East. Maybe 2 in the East and 2 in the West, or it'd be the top 4 teams. Period.
I cannot imagine Sun Belt doing a 4-team playoff. I think Sun Belt.
Well, for the Sun Belt, it's gonna be the full slate of teams. Everyone's in.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't. They're not going to do a playoff with football at all. Or I guess you could maybe to an extent, but I think it'd be more about try to get teams to play as many games as possible, and if that includes playing some home and homes, if we play Southern here and Southern there, I could see something like that happening, which would suck. But I don't even know if you'd see a Sun Belt championship game. I think we had to crown somebody and be done with it.
Or crown no one. Just call it an asterisk season. That's it. Be done with it.
Yeah. But I feel like we may see no bowl games this year, or very, very limited. Like, we're not going to see the whole slew of bowl games, like the 40 or 50 of them they have. You'll get your playoff games and your maybe playoff games. I don't know. It's going to be weird.
What if all the experts are wrong? There's no second wave. We can have bowl games.
Are we having a second wave right now?
We're still in the first one, right? I don't know.
God, I don't
know
know
how science works.
That's science. Whatever. I think we're just cresting on the first wave, and then we're just going to go back up again the second wave that's coming.
That's a theory. That's one.
He says that there's a bunch of schools ready to call off the season or do dramatic changes, but none of them wants to be the first school to do it.
They don't want to be the first domino?
Yeah, well, they're afraid because none of the recruits have signed yet. No committed signing yet. So if they're the first school to announce, and the other schools wait a week or so to announce, then may get a lot of kids. You could have nobody in your 21 class, period. So that could have a long-term effect on your team if all these recruits just bail because I don't know. So let's see. He had his expectations. Michigan will play football this fall. So he's saying not spring.
That's good.
They will play fewer than 12 games that is currently on its schedule. And that includes Washington and Arkansas State being canceled altogether and replaced by MAC teams, if not canceled altogether. Play at least one home and home with other Big Ten teams. There's at least one Big Ten program to not play at all, and as many as 4 or 5. The Big Ten championship with 4 teams. The other sports will play on all regional schedule. And then he says no fans at any sport non-football or not football. So I guess he's saying that he does expect fans to be at the football games. So
that's positive. I'll take one positive out of the article.
Wow. So that was his thing, which was, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of insight in there. I think did we say this last week, or is this something I learned this week? Ivy League's already announced they're playing in the spring.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah. And then another article that I don't have any details on, so I won't bore you with it. The Pac-12 is considering a conference-only spring schedule. South Carolina governor has said there's no football if the surge continues, the second surge or whatever we're going through. So I don't know.
They're a downer. I mean,
You know what I think what needs to happen is if we get to our Wild West days of, news changing every week, we should take the podcast to daily. Like every single night, let's get on and talk about that day's news, what's changed, how it impacts Georgia State, and everything.
You just find a reason to drink.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's exactly what I'm doing. I think all of our partners would totally be on board with us spending a couple of hours every night drinking and talking to each other.
This is important.
Do you not realize I keep muting my microphone because my kid is just screaming on the other side of the door. I mean,
is she screaming about the U.S. blowing up stuff?
No, I don't know what she's screaming about.
Screaming about bedtime? Not wanting to go?
Yeah, it's way past. That's why.
It is. And you guys have an early morning tomorrow, right?
Just me.
Okay.
So,
no, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're good. All right. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say we can call that quits for this week. And I do have a few more things non-Georgia State to talk about on last call. Which
I think last call is gonna be just y'all. I need to wrap some things up and go to bed.
That is fine.
All right.
Fine. If anybody watching on Facebook wants to join last call, we can. I can send you a link if you post a message in the Facebook chat. I'm not sure if anyone's still out there since we had our technical difficulties earlier on. Anyhow, thanks Ryan. Thanks Tim for being here.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk to all you guys next week.
Bye y'all.
Go Panthers.